Scott Kasmar, first podcast ever, dude.
Yeah. Kind of nervous, I'll be honest.
Congratulations. So I guess you finally decided you're ready to grow your social media following. And
I don't know about that.
You trying to get famous now?
No, absolutely not. No, definitely not.
Dude, I'm so thankful to have you on the show today. You and I are friends. I consider you my friend.
Yeah.
We have shot some competitions together out with our mutual friend Edgar.
Yep.
We go to the same gym.
Yep.
And just to let the audience know and to let you know, I have a ton of respect for you, dude, because you conduct yourself very well. You are in really good shape. You are a good shooter. You take your skills and your skill set seriously, and you hold a high standard. You set a high standard. Even for a guy like me, I mean, I look at you and I'm like, I got a lot of respect for what you do. And that's the reason I wanted to have you on the show, to have this conversation. Because,
well, I'll be honest, a lot of that came from my growing up and my dad, my family. They kind of, you're going to do it, like, if you're going to do it, do it to the best that you can.
That's good.
My mom got me into sports. My dad got me all in the adventure stuff. Like I started rock climbing at the age of 5. So that was pretty cool, And then my dad told me one time, he's like, as going into the military, he was just like, don't ever turn down a class. If they ever offer you a class, don't ever turn it down, because you never know. If you turn one down, they'll probably never come back to you. And then before deploying overseas, also, like, man, I need to get in a lot of training. It was like, because I was scared. I was like, I could get as much training as I can. That way, increase my survivability. That's the same way I look at it on the law enforcement side of things. Is like, I got to get all the training I can, because I gotta make sure not only like physically survive, but now, like with lawsuits and everything else, I gotta make sure I'm protecting myself and I know what I'm talking about and I don't violate people's rights and things like that. So, I mean, there's a huge encompassing factors going into that, as far as that's what I hold myself to.
Yep. And that's inspiring, because I don't think that is the majority of guys. And it's just from what I see, right? And that goes for what I've seen in the military, and then what I've seen from other guys when they get out of the military. They're like, okay, I'm not going to hold myself to that standard anymore. And you've continued that on, man. So, that's why I wanted to have you on. And today's conversation for the listeners is coming from a event that happened in my life a couple of weeks ago. And it really caught me off guard, and I didn't like it. And I realized that a lot of this is a me problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
we all got problems.
Yeah, a lot of this is a me problem, man. But I wanted to unpack this because I didn't like it. And I made a truck talk about it. And on that truck talk, not that you can gauge culture off of YouTube comments, but I did see an overwhelming majority of comments on the YouTube channel of people. I don't pay any attention to the people that are just idiots, that are just trying to make comments.
I watched that. That was the truck talk, and I scrolled through the comments and things like that.
You got to learn how to filter that. And basically what I'm looking at is like people who are actually making a comment on there that's sensible. You know what I mean? And through those comments, I'm looking, I'm saying, okay, well, there's some people that feel a little bit like me, and have kind of felt this tension. And the tension that I'm talking about and that I want to discuss today is kind of this increasing divide that I see and I feel between our law enforcement officers and just the general public, the population.
Are you talking like all over U.S. or locally? Or
I mean, so I think that the increasing divide is probably occurring all over the U.S., but obviously in these big cities and stuff, I think the divide and the gap is even larger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for me, Scott, like, dude, I grew up in a law enforcement family.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a law enforcement officer. My brother, these guys that work with me, I mean, these guys were, I mean, they were in it, dude. And when I grew up, I mean, I remember seeing my dad and his buddies that were doing the job back then, and always having the most high regard for these men who and women who have chosen to put their lives at risk on a daily basis. They're deployed every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're deployed. They're on a deployment every day. Yeah, which is crazy to me. It's
very different because, you know, I've been both worlds. We're in combat. You know, like you're there for a certain period of time, and then you come home and you decompress and all that. And, you know, law enforcement side, it's when you go to work, you're there. You know, and then you go home and you get your sleep, and then you turn around and you go right back to work. And I mean, yeah, like it can be a combat environment, I guess, like if you want to call it that. It like the stress part of it. But the overall is it really just depends on what you do. Are you working high crime areas? If you're working high crime areas all the time, it's going to feel like a combat zone, relatively speaking, not just because it's high stress and things like that. You're looking for certain types of individuals. You know, the nonverbal body indicators is a big thing that I always look for, like the way when somebody's talking to me, like certain body motions, certain hand movements, certain words they're using. Are they trying to buy time? Are they, you know, things like that, what they're doing? Like that's stressful. It's not only stressful, it's like, okay, what is he looking for? Is he trying to grab his license? Is he trying to go for something else? The vast majority of the time they're just really trying to buy time because they're not, like, they don't have their driver's license, period. Like,
yeah.
So, but the, you know, the other part is like, for me, like, I'm a very high productive person. So like, if I call it like a cold spell, if I'm not finding criminals, like, you know, if I'm not making felony arrests, legitimate felony arrests, obviously, then, you know, I'm not doing my job. So, but I mean, sometimes it's just like that. Like, you're going to have a cold spell. Why? Just because either one, you're not in the right place at the right time, or number two, there's nothing going on.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Like, and then you just you're like, am I doing something wrong? Am I not looking for things, or it just kind of eats away at you? So that's the other side of the stress when you have high productive officers that are very proactive, is if they're not, you know, keeping the streets safe and building better communities, they don't feel like they're doing a good job.
I love that, man. And yeah, and so all of that being said, I mean, I still have a high respect for men and women that are out there doing that job, because that's a job that I'm not willing to do.
Yeah.
Flat out. I'm not willing to do it. You couldn't pay me enough money to do it, dude. For a bunch of different reasons. So I still hold you and your fellow officers in high regard. But I was, to continue on kind of with the narrative of how this conversation happened, I was pulled over the other day in Rome for not having a sticker on my tag. And whatever, I was guilty. All right, we're not here to debate. Yeah. Today's not to debate whether the laws are right or wrong, or if it's good. Should we have to have a sticker on our tag? And, you know, I feel strongly about those things, but that's not the conversation to have with the law enforcement. You know what I mean? That's another conversation. Well,
so you know, like, because I watched your truck talk and things like that, and I was trying to understand your logic, you know, behind that, because I always tell my officers, sometimes you need to put yourself in the feet of the person that you're behind. Like, they're scared and stuff like that, you know. And, you know, law enforcement hasn't been painted in a good light for a very long time. You know, chaos sells. So they would rather, a lot of times people like to publicize the bad things than the good things. But there's, you know, and like, I was kind of curious, you know, so I was like, what is a good reason to have vehicles registered? And a good thing for us is this is just one point of view. It's not a million points of views, but as specifically as the law enforcement side of me, if I have that vehicle registered to you, that gives me something to go back to. Say that you loaned your truck to Joe Schmo, and they went and they robbed a convenience store, right? But if there's like no tag, no identifying markers, nobody is registered to, like, and I can track that vehicle back to you. Hey, your vehicle was involved in this crime. You know, what can were you there? Where were you at? Oh no, I loaned it to him. Oh, okay. So that gives me something to go back to, and maybe be able to solve a crime. Maybe there was a murder. Maybe somebody got pistol whipped or something like that. So that's just one aspect of it.
Well, and I'm in 100% agreement with that.
Yeah.
Like, and so since we're here, before we carry on,
I know you didn't want to go down.
No, before we carry on with that narrative, I mean, so my side of it is I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we should indeed have identifying markers on our vehicles that should be registered for the exact reasons that you're talking about. There's a great purpose and a great reason behind that. I just think it could be done differently. It's essentially, if you want me to put a tag on my car, I get that. That's awesome. I'm a taxpayer and I pay a lot of taxes. Yeah. Send me the tag. I'll put the tag on my car and it'll be on the car as long as I own the car.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But nonetheless, that's probably never going to happen.
Oh,
but
no.
Me still having a bit of a rebellious heart and also just the anger that I feel toward the government, all right, is increasing that. And we'll get into that conversation here in a little bit. But when these were your guys, when they pulled me over for this, it's not about the tag. It's not about the sticker. It wasn't about that for me. What really made me uncomfortable was how I felt toward them. So we had the main officer that pulled me over.
Yep. He
comes up to the side of the car. Now, I do have an AR-15 in the back seat. I'm sure he saw that. He gets my information. He goes back to his car, and he's taking a while. And I see another officer pull up.
So
all right?
There's multiple reasons for that. Number one, officer's close, and he's just going in and check on, hey, what you got? Oh, I just got this. Okay. And it's just nothing more than sometimes like the other officer doesn't have anything going on, and not really bored or anything like that, but, he's like, well.
He's finding gainful employment.
Yes.
Yeah. I get that.
Like when they say, when in doubt, pull security.
That's it, man.
That type of stuff. So he's just trying to stay active for a little bit, or maybe like he just needs a little break from what he's doing and stuff like that. And yeah, like the tactics of that whole thing. You got one passenger, one driver side, and things like that. As you're trying to divert attention, right? If there was something crazy that was going to happen, now you have two people that's drawing your attention in separate points. So now I'm splitting my focus, right?
It worked. It was a great tactic. I mean, I understood what they were doing.
Yeah. And I understand your side. Like you feel uncomfortable with that. And that's why I tell, like my guys, and they're young, they're like getting young. I call them young Joes. I didn't know what you call them when you're in the Navy. Young Joes, they're curious, and you'll get like 5 or 6 of them that will just stand around like after an incident. Not like 5 or 6, but like 3 or 4 maybe. And you'd be like, what do you got? All right, what's going on? What are we doing? Oh, no, we're just, smoking and joking. Okay. So, and I always have to remind them, I'm like, sometimes, not always, what do you think this looks like? What kind of image are we projecting by staying here? Or like, hey, what's going on? Or like you have 3 or 4 police cars coming on. It's like, you're like, is there a reason why you're here? Oh, I was just making sure everything's okay, or they needed anything. Okay, cool. That was like, and then I'll tell them, not much going on, that all we need is 2 officers, and you guys can go. Because sometimes, like, in the Army, we'd have what we call the E4 Mafia, right? They're good at finding ways to sham out or something like that. And I mean, it's just like anything else. Like, not saying that we do that, but they're just kind of curious, and people are curious, and it's just human nature. So,
Yep. Yep.
but your situation, like that's could have been a multitude of reasons. Like he could, and that's sometimes standard practice for us. We just have a backup officer there, just in case something does go sideways.
So I don't blame the guys for doing what they did, because if I was the main officer that pulled me over and I walk up to my vehicle and I'm him, and I walk up to this vehicle and I'm in a Toyota Land Cruiser with tinted windows, and I'm this big bearded, long-haired kind of dude that looks like a potential Unabomber, and I got a hot AR-15 in the back seat, a backpack right beside me. If I'm him, I'm calling another dude and being like, hey, I got a little bit of a weird-looking dude up in here, and he's got a loaded rifle in the back seat, which there's nothing wrong with that. But, hey, if something goes down, I want you to have my back, right? So, I get that. That's why I'm saying a lot of this is a me problem, man, because I'm sitting there, he's taking a while, and I start stewing. And I see that other dude pull up, and I start stewing. And the reason I'm stewing is because the world that we live in now, it's such a litigious culture that we've created. There are so many laws now, all right? And again, we're not debating that, but I'm sitting here thinking, dang, did I miss something? Do I potentially have a warrant for something that I did?
That goes through everybody's brain.
And I'm stewing, man, what's taking so long? And this other guy pulls up, and then this second guy that pulls up, young dude, he comes up to my passenger side. Yep. I roll the window down before I know what they're doing. I roll the window down and I say, he's like, you're good, man. And then the second officer comes up on my driver's side. I was like, this dude just flanked me. He diverted my attention and flanked me, and I didn't like that. Ticked me off as a warrior.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's why I'm saying this is a me problem. All right,
you feel your heart rising a little bit. You're like, what's going on?
They used good tactics. Yeah. They got me. They had the drop on me, and and so I'm sitting here, Scott, and I'm just thinking, I don't trust these dudes. I don't, I don't trust them right now. I don't trust my life, my freedom. I don't trust these dudes. And again,
can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
What made you feel that way though?
I can put my finger on it.
Okay.
Okay. It wasn't those guys. It wasn't the tactics they used. It wasn't that they were disrespectful, because they weren't. They were very respectful.
Yeah.
Both of those dudes. Both of those dudes were in shape. They looked trained. They didn't look like fat, sloppy hogs. All right? What made me not trust those dudes is because I have lost trust in our system, our government.
Yeah.
Local, state, and federal. And it's for a multitude of reasons. It's one, because there are so many confusing laws and so many things you have to keep up with and so many things you have to stay on top of. It's almost like I need a secretary to handle all of the payments and the tolls and the stickers and the this and that and that and this. Okay, I just feel I'm at the point in my life, Scott, where I feel like I am essentially a battery that is just providing power to the machine, right? So it is that I have lost trust in my government. When we realize that the leaders of our country are likely caught up in a ring where they're harming children for sexual purposes. There's words that we can't say on the podcast or we get flagged, but you guys know the whole Epstein stuff and all that. I'm like, and so then I see these officers and they've got the advantage, they've got the authority, and the authority that they have from the civilian perspective, they are a representative of and the strong arm of the government that I have completely lost faith in. And that's not fair to those guys.
Well, I just want to say one thing quick. You know who actually gives us the power? The police department? You do. The people do.
Talk to me about that.
So, and this was how it was explained to me at basically at any time the people are like, we don't want a police department here, and police department's gone.
Is that for real?
Well, up in New Jersey, there was a city up there that said we don't want the PD anymore. PD was dissolved, so the state troopers in New Jersey had to go answer calls in that area. I don't know, it was a suburb or something like that. This was 3-4 years ago. But the power of the police department actually comes from the people. It doesn't come from the government or anything like that. I mean, the arrest authority is governed by them, but the people actually have the power to say, hey, we don't want a police department anymore. And then the sheriff office takes over because it's an elected official. So
I had no clue.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't. I didn't know for a long time. and this is told to me by, guys that are smarter than me. They're, in an administration now for our department. And, there's a lot of good hearts in there. And things like that, like, and I know, like, you have distrust in them, and that you were saying that the officers, like, they basically, they work for them. But really the only way the officers is going to change anything is, like, again, like you told me a while ago, you need to move up and make those changes yourself, right? Those officers, and I always tell people there's two things about the law. There's the spirit of the law, and then there's the letter of the law.
Talk to me about that, man.
So, like, when I was an officer, let's say like your tag violation or something like that. Say, okay, this guy's got tinted window, pretty dark tinted windows, he's got tag,
Looked kind of shady.
Yeah. As you said, what, Jeffrey Dahmer? Or
yeah.
I was like, this may be somebody interesting to talk to. So I'll find a reason to pull them over, right? Because there's the plethora of laws, right? It'll be something small like tag, brake light, didn't signal when changing lanes. And then I'll walk up and I say, hey, I give him my spiel. Hey, I'm Sergeant Kasmar, my own police department. The reason I'm being pulled you over is your brake light was out. I'm not going to give you a citation for it. I'm just going to give you a warning. Can I see your driver's license, registration, insurance? So, and then things like that. What I'm doing is I'm like a lot. So some officers, they like to make driver side approaches. And I always preach the safety side of that. And is because I like passenger side approaches. Number one, it gets you out of traffic, right? And then we talk about different pillars. Bust the microphone.
Good.
We talk about different pillars on the vehicle. So you have an SUV, right? So you have an A, B, C, D pillar, right? D pillar is all the way at the back. C, then D, B is the furthest I'll, kind of go. Yep. If it's really dark tinted windows, I'll knock on the back window. Hey, can you do me a favor? Roll down the window. I just want to see if anybody's back there, And it's a safety thing, right? I do all my stops pretty much the same. Roll down. Hey, give me my spiel. I'm off the side of the road. If anything goes south, I have more cover from the pillars. And I took a vehicle CQB class, so shooting in and around vehicles, and we took duty ammo and things like that, and we shot into these pillars. And they're reinforced for a reason, because you get a rollover, an accident. Like, obviously they have a certain tensile strength, right? But like, they will absorb bullets. So I was, and that's kind of what I do. It's kind of a safety thing, but also too, I can look inside the vehicle, and everything comes back good. And as I'm talking to you, like if you're reaching, you give a driver's license, and I say, hey, can I see your driver's license? But you go like this, out of the passenger side. I can't really see how your body's reacting, right? Because your body will tell me things that you're not trying to tell me, but you're trying to really hard to suppress, right? And say, I give you a warning, right? So that should put you at ease, right? If I say, hey, you're like, oh, thank God, because most people are worried about a ticket. But if I have you go like this, it's hard to suppress that shakiness, even though so why are you nervous still? Is it your adrenaline settling? Is it, or is there something else at play here? Then I'll ask you, hey, because we're allowed to have general conversation. Where you coming from, where you going to, types of things like that. And at that point, like, I'm just kind of, if I saw where you're coming from, oh, did you come down this road over here? Oh, yeah. And then, like, really, I just saw you come from this gas station.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, well, why are you lying to me about something so simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's other things that go down. And that's what I'm doing is and I can do this pretty quick in a general. It took me a long time to get there. And then usually if I dismiss any suspicions of any criminal activity and it's just go back there. Now, you were talking about why is this taking so long? Man, I cannot tell you how many times we have a system in our car, and for some reason didn't used to do this, but like I would run your driver's license, and there's just a huge delay in time. It's like, okay, I'm waiting for it to come back. I'm waiting for it to come back. I'm waiting for it to come back, and I'm like, this dude's gonna get nervous. So typically, if it's that's what's doing. It's taking a long time. Hey, I'll walk back up. Hey, dude, I know it's taking a long time. Our system's slow. I apologize.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just bear with me. And then you're thinking, it was like, is he lying to me? Is he telling the truth? And I'd be like, no, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
It's taken forever to get some of these things back.
And
so.
and you talked about the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law.
So
and I think that's important for people to understand.
Yeah.
Like the spirit of the law is essentially the ability for the peace officer to use discretion.
That's the big thing. Discretion. Right.
Yeah.
There. And I always tell them, you know, like, as you said, spirit of the law, letter of the law.
But that's got to be hard for you guys, though, man, because like if it's good enough to be written as a law, like in what case should it not be enforced? And it's like if there's a scenario where it shouldn't be enforced, should it be a law? Like, you know, that discretion, that gray area. I mean, that's going to sit different with every officer.
It does.
You know,
but I mean, everybody's different. Like, I mean, look at me and you.
Yeah.
Like, we're so different, but like, we like a lot of the same things. We do a lot of the same things, but our train of thought is totally different, right? Deals with upbringing. I mean, there's a multitude of factors that go into
even just
things.
how our day went.
Yeah,
for sure.
But like, you know, officer discretion, I always tell it like this is like, you pull over a 66-year-old guy. He didn't have his seatbelt on or something like that. And you know, the newer officers is like, well, he didn't have a seatbelt on. Granted, it's a fixed fine. It's $15. It even says it in the law. You can look it up. $15 fine, right? So you go, and I look at the newer officers as, okay, what's your plan? What are you going to do? Because we have to do supervised checkoff rides on that. And so I get them to think a little bit differently, right? Be like, okay, this dude's 66 years old, right? When do you retire in this state? Or when do you retire in general? Like 62, I think, is kind of when everybody starts collecting their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're on a fixed income now, right? And this is how it was explained to me too. So those are factors that you take in. If I give him this $15 ticket, which all I could do is say, put your seatbelt on, give you a warning. Next time you will get a ticket because this is your warning, right? Will this affect this guy's Medicare, Medicaid? Will this affect this guy food? Will this affect him getting gas so he can get his doctor's appointment? $15, I mean, because gas prices are kind of going back up now. But $15 is, you know, that's what, 5 gallons roughly?
It could make a difference to someone at that age.
Little things can make a difference. And that's what I'm saying, spirit of the law. So the spirit of the law is it's like, hey, I pulled him over. I notified him he needs to wear a seatbelt. Now he's going to wear his seatbelt, right? Because he's thinking about it now. I can't afford this ticket. Where in the beginning, he was like, maybe he just pulled out of a gas station and
didn't think about it.
Didn't think about it, right? You know, sometimes everybody gets distracted every now and then. But that's what I'm saying about the spirit of the law. And then the letter of the law is like, nope, he's not wearing a seatbelt. Ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what is your goal when you're issuing citations or warnings or pulling somebody over? Really, it's just to get them aware of what they're doing, and that's what I try to communicate to all of our officers is, you know, we got to show we're good people, and some of the things like that is it's like. It's being active on the road. It's pulling people over. And, you know, you get those messages like, oh, Rome police, because I'm part of the Facebook groups and Rome community and all that. They're out in force today and all that and stuff. And it was like, well, just, you know, use your turn signal, buckle up, don't speed. I mean, it's simple things like you don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, I love that, man. But I think it seems like newer officers coming in, for them to be able to understand the idea behind the spirit of the law, and how to actually think through those things and make those calls and use discretion, that's going to require, for those newer guys, that's going to require a good example and good leadership.
Yep.
For them to even be able to understand how to navigate that, because that's a complex thing for a new guy to navigate. Because
it's super hard,
if I did that job and I said I could just put myself in the position as a 23, 24-year-old, I got my badge, I'm like, okay, my job is to enforce the law. I would need an older guy to come alongside me and be like, hey man, these are your people.
Yeah.
Like these are the people that your job is to keep peace and to serve your community. And so, yes, if someone is like repeatedly breaking a law that's endangering other people, like, yeah, hammer them, son.
Yeah,
but if it's a 60-year-old dude that pulls out of a gas station that forgets to put his seatbelt on, hey man, use some discretion there, because these are your people. I love that, man. And it requires good leadership. It has to.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I was that young kid once too. Somebody had to sit down, and I had some good leaders, and I still do have some, good leaders, excuse me, over me. And, I take little snippets of things that they all say, and, I keep those things. Like, I remember there was a high ranking guy when I first got on, and he says, he looked at all the new guys and he said this, and I can't remember if this quoted exactly, but he said, you can't change the world, but you can change the world with one person. So that kind of brings you back to I think it's the old adage, is like, changing the world one person at a time type of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that, like, I mean, that was 10 years ago for me. And I still remember that.
It's a good perspective.
Because it was like, I was just like, okay, because like guys are out here, it's like, yes, I'm going to clean this community up and do everything. It was like, dude, you can't. Like, it's impossible. That's why there is a department that is there when we're constantly working 24 hours a day, trying to do the right thing. But then again, as you said, you got individual minds. But, like the crew that I have now is very nice. Like, they're very good. They're very knowledgeable. They're hungry. They're in good shape. They want to go out and they want to do the right thing, and they also want to help too.
That's good to hear, man.
Like on the radio yesterday, I was listening, and two officers, like, we had people in need. Hey, can you do me a favor? Dispatch, call the shelters, see if they got rooms or stuff like that.
That's
like,
so good to hear,
yeah,
man.
Because
you don't see that on social media, and like,
it doesn't sell. That's why.
Yeah, I want to get into this. And by the way, we didn't even touch on your background. I think that people need to know that you are a Army veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your MOS in the Army?
I was a forward observer. So,
okay.
Yeah, I got on the radio and called in artillery, mortars, attack helicopters, airstrikes. They trained us to do naval gunfire, but obviously we never did that. We weren't close enough.
Yeah. Where did you deploy to?
Iraq.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. What year?
04 to 05. No, excuse me, 05 to 06. My apologies.
The hottest years there was.
Yes.
Just about, yeah. That's awesome, man. And then what year did you get out?
2000, well, officially 2014.
Okay.
I kind of left active duty 2011.
And how long have you been in law enforcement?
10 years now.
10 years.
Well, 11, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, because I graduated in 2015. So, and I put myself through. So, like, I used the GI Bill that we got, and I found an academy that was through a university. They used it, and I was able to get college credit for it. And then I went back and I finished, my degree because I was already, getting college credit for it. I was like, well, helps to get a degree, I guess.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. And I don't know if you know this, but there's actually a big move now of people who think combat veterans should not be serving as law enforcement officers. There's a big move toward that because, okay.
My whole thing is why? What's your logic?
Yeah. So for me, I think me as a with a combat MOS, I am trained to be offensive all the time, which is one of the reasons I would never be a law enforcement officer, because I'm afraid that my training would override the training that I would receive as a police officer, and it would cause an issue.
A lot of law enforcement is offensive. We just use different words. It's called being proactive. So it's actively engaging. You know, these are hot. I used to work a lot of high crime, high drug areas. It was like high crime, high drug areas. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to pull cars over. I'm going to talk to people. This guy on the bicycle doesn't have a headlight, tail light. It's dark out. You know, he's on the road. I'm going to pull him over. I'm going to talk to him, you know. And like little things. I mean, I'd cut him loose if it was nothing. But like, just again, then, you know, spirit of law, letter of law. Like, I'm just making him aware. Dude, not too bright being on a bicycle in the middle of the nighttime. And nobody can see you. You know, you have reflectors on, or, you know, at least the light gives me a warning to let you know, hey, there's a bicycle over there or something red's reflecting if you're looking at the backside of it.
Yeah, I see that all, like that opinion all the time though. And like, I can so I think where that opinion's coming from is we now see videos of law enforcement and they are kitted out like a legit military force.
Yeah.
And I think that's scaring the crap out of people, man. And I think that's why people are like, we should not have these combat veterans and guys with combat MOS transitioning into law enforcement, because they're essentially just becoming a militarized force that is
of their gear.
Yeah, is again the strong arm of this government that we no longer have faith in. So, but as far as the guys you work with, I mean, are your guys that have experience in the military, do they tend to be your better guys? You're like all around.
Yeah. Typically, yeah, because they have a different life experience. So we either went through boot camp, basic training. I don't know what they call the Navy boot camp.
Yeah,
they go through.
Yeah,
okay. And I think everything else is called basic training, either boot camp or basic training. Those guys are like, so they're kind of taught to, you know, yes, take orders and things like that, but at the same time, like, I'm trying to get you to think, because in basic training, it's like, we don't want you to think, but it is like, because I used to be a drill sergeant, like, I'm trying to get you to think of the next step and things like that. And I always used to tell my guys, it's like, when I was teaching, when I was a drill sergeant, there was no, if you go to Afghanistan or if you go to Iraq, it was when you go.
Those years in the Army, yeah.
Yeah. So I told him, I was like, listen, been there, done that. We didn't get these lessons before we got in. I was like, I'm teaching you all the tricks and the trades that we learned while we were overseas and things that saved a lot of guys' lives. I was like, some of you are going to leave here, and 2 weeks later, you're going to find yourself overseas. So I was like, the lessons that we learned today, I'm teaching you the basics because it's basic training. But at the same time, I'm teaching you additional skill sets like that we learned overseas that protected us and kept us alive, right?
So that would be, to me, yeah. Like again, I see their perspective. They see this militarized force, and it's a bunch of veterans, and you know, like I see how that's intimidating to the general population. And
I got guys in my ranks you wouldn't even know that were vets.
Yeah, I believe that.
Because their attitude is like, sometimes they're so different. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. And so this is the key point. But the advantage to having veterans in law enforcement as law enforcement officers is that they have better situational awareness. Yep. They already have established the ability to problem solve and think, and also they have learned, at least at some level, through being in the military, how to better control their emotions.
Yep.
Which I think is so critical doing the job that you do. You just mentioned it out here earlier. You talked about how when people are really being a dick to you,
Yeah.
and you were like, I don't let that change who I am. You know what you're doing right there? You are disciplined enough to control your emotions and not allow the circumstance
Yeah.
to dictate who you are.
Well, a lot of times, like I always tell people, I was like, if you never saw my face, you know, and you saw me standing in this clothing, and you never saw my face, and you saw me standing in my uniform, people will get upset over the uniform, right? But it's the same person.
I know, man.
Nothing changes.
I know.
Like all I'm doing, you know, like people are saying like, oh, you got a badge and a gun, you know, it empowers you. You know, like you have this. I never, honestly, I don't. But you know, a lot of that came from the military. It was like I carried gun and a body armor over there. It was just really about talking to people, and same thing here. I think what helped me more when I got out of the military, especially talking to people and having a chilled, laid back attitude, is I used to be a skydive instructor, and I did that for years. And you get everybody make different shapes, sizes, you know, and you just talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And like you were forced into, because I'm taking you on either a tandem skydive or I'm teaching you how to skydive, and like that's a super stressful situation. So like that really helped me talk to people, which, you know, gosh, I can't think of the word. Rolls over basically into law enforcement, because I can go up and I can talk to anybody.
Yeah, and so there, yeah, I mean, that is a great example of how someone as a background, you know, with the background as a veteran, it's going to be an advantage for them to be a law enforcement officer, and not only advantage to them, but an advantage to us out here who aren't law enforcement. Like, at least I know this dude that's pulling me over has had extensive training on how to control his emotions and interact with all different types of people. And I'm hoping that if I make the wrong move here, like I accidentally reach for something and I don't warn him, I'm hoping that he has enough self-control to not react in a negative way to what I just did and pull his gun out and potentially kill me.
Yeah.
You know, so for me personally, I would rather have a dude like you who is a veteran, who has had that training, who has had that experience. I would rather have a dude like you pull me over, because I know that you are way less likely to react based off of emotion to whatever happens during our interaction than some dude just off the streets that comes in and does this job.
And there's ways that we're improving that in the department now. There's different training styles from when I first went in. Now what we're doing, I went to, it's called the Use of Force Instructor class, and basically in its scenario based training, it's skill builder drills. So like, you know how you do like CQB, you'd have your 1-man, 2-man, and all that. You know, I'd have you walk through as a 1-man, and we just talk about corner fed, center fed rooms, right? And we break it down. And it's the same thing we're doing there. And it's kind of crazy, but it helps them understand their tasks better. So I'll say something like, officer sees suspect, you know, officer gives suspect verbal commands. Suspect complies, officer effects arrest. That's the skill builder drill. Go. And then, you know, at some point we'll change it up. Be like, you know, suspect does not comply, you know. And then officer, you know, gives loud verbal commands. You can either, you know, I always call it the bat belt. You can do something on the bat belt, or you can go, you know, hands-on if they're, you know, they're being either passive resistive or actively resistive type things. So, you know, they're not complying. Eventually, as I said, like sometimes the rubber has got to meet the road. And then, you know, you ask them to do it, you tell them to do it, but at some point, if they're not doing, you're not, even when you're telling them, you got to make them do it, you know? So that's when the use of force kind of comes into play is, and then we do a bunch of those skill builder drills, and then we do a scenario. We run scenarios all the time. And we're taking a lot of that training, and it comes back down to stress inoculation. Mm-hmm. So you were saying about that, you know, that inadvertent movement that you didn't, or like the movement that you did, but you don't want them to interpret it as something that's dangerous, you know. And by exposing them to the scenarios of different types of things and, building their experience.
Repetition.
Yeah. It's going to give them, it's like, okay, like, he sees, hey, what are you reaching for? Oh, I'm going to driver's license. Okay. So he may like, Cooper's color code. Okay. So, and it's a big thing. I first heard it in the military. So it's like different levels of awareness, right? Or heightened senses. So like, green is basically when you're asleep. Yellow is, when you kind of wake up for the day. And then I'm probably going to screw this up. So we'll have to look it up. And I bet you somebody will comment, you messed that up later. But basically it's different heights of awareness. And then it goes into like yellow is just like you're more aware. Red is like you're kind of adrenaline dump, stuff has happened, bullets are flying. And black is just like you're not on this earth anymore. Like your brain is just checked out type of thing, because it like fight, flight, or freeze. It's more at the freeze part of it.
Yep.
So he sees you make that movement. He looks down, and he's kind of like actively watching you, reach in there and stuff like that.
But he doesn't go straight to red.
No, he doesn't go, oh, this is a danger, But like is there a potential for something dangerous? Could be. I don't know everybody on the side of the road. I don't know their intentions. I've been here 10 years. I do know some people. I know their names and stuff like that. Or based on the way you're interacting with me in the beginning, like I can kind of tell if this is going to be chill or this is going to be more of a respectful engagement. I have to bite my tongue.
let's talk about that interaction, because just from a practical standpoint, because we're about to dig in again. We're talking about this divide or this gap that's widening. So I want to break this down and spend a little bit of time talking about people and what changes have you seen in people over the last few years or the last 10 years. And so we're going to start to break this down, but just for practical sense, what is the most respectful way for us to act when you guys pull us over? Like what can we do that's going to make sure that the scenario goes as smooth as possible? Like, do we need to grip the steering wheel, put our hands out the window? Like
for me personally, just be cordial. Like, have like our conversation right here. Just be a normal person, act like you normally would every day. Just be cordial. Like, the only reason, a lot of 99% of the time, the reason the officer's pulling you over is just there was some kind of infraction. And you just, again, it's going to vary from officer to officer. So I can't speak for everyone, but for me, like, I'll come up and I'll talk to you. And then just based on the conversation you have, I can say, this is going to be smooth, or this is going to be a rough road, but we'll get through it and I'll go on down to the next person, or I may go take my lunch after this one,
Yeah.
But a lot of time, as if I'm talking to you like I am right now, that's the way I prefer my interactions. I just prefer one human talking to another human. And I understand, people have bad days, like, and it kind of just bleeds over. So they broke up with their boyfriend, and they're kind of all stressed out, or they lost their job, and those are factors that we got to take in. It's like, something's going on. Like, are you okay? And that's the human side of the officer that's speaking, right? You're like, what's going on? Or like, they got the ticket.
So if a cop asks you, hey man, are you okay? He might not be asking you that to incriminate you.
Yes.
I think that's good for us to hear, because I feel like when you guys pull me over, every question you're asking me is to essentially incriminate me.
Yeah. Now there may be some officers, that's what they're doing. Every time they ask you a question, like it may be something they're trying to figure out. Like my medical training has helped me out a ton with like DUI type stuff. And the reason I was like, but I also have like advanced recognition in driving impairment, right? So there's more tests that I can do. And I'm like, man, they're not lining up with impairment. There is something else that is going on. And there was one time, like, there's one lady, she had, I think it was like liver cancer or something like that. And she had, like, it was super weird the way she was acting, but I was just like, this is not a drug. There's something else going on. I got on the phone, called a doctor buddy who's a medic on our SWAT team. And I'm like, hey, this is what I get. She's kind of doing, this and this. She says she has this. And I was like, doesn't, I don't get the feeling it's drugs based on my training, knowledge, and experience. And he goes, well, I can't think of it as like liver cancer or something. It's like she may have abnormally high ammonia in her blood, which is kind of causing her to act that way or drive that way. It's like she needs to get to a hospital the first thing. I was like, okay. I come back over. I talked to the other officer. I was like, this is what we got. This is what I see, and literally we just, hey, ma'am, you mind if we take you to the hospital to get you checked out? Because something's not right. I don't think you realize something's not right either. Like a week later, another very similar incident happened. We thought during broad daylight it was a DUI because, just all over the road, not reacting to lights or the blue lights, taking delays, like to pull over and things. Sometimes it's like, okay, they're trying to find a spot. But then get out, talk to the lady, and it's like, you do your a little bit of field sobriety, and you're like, this is not drugs that I see, or this isn't, alcohol. There's something else going on. And I ask, are you okay? And one of the questions that we asked, do you have any medical illnesses or injuries that I need to know about when we do field sobriety stuff? But I do it two ways. Number one, I see medically, are you okay? And number two is the other side, the DUI. It's just like, okay, the dude has a traumatic head injury, and that's what's causing his eyes, to do that. So it's like, oh, that explains a lot now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, that's good, man. I mean, I can't tell you how much I personally needed to hear just someone in your position just tell me that, hey, man, no, I actually care about people. Like I actually care about people. Like I don't view my job as just to incriminate you and do what the government tells me to do towards you. Like I'm actually a human being and I care about people.
Yeah.
Like I need it. This is why I wanted to have this conversation, We're going to take a short break, hit the head real quick, and we're going to come back and dude, I want to start digging into just breaking down this divide that is happening, talking about what's changed about people that you guys have seen from the law enforcement perspective over the course of the last decade. And then I want to get into talking about what's changed about police but the candidates you guys are getting, the obstacles that you guys have to overcome, maybe the training you're receiving, maybe the leadership, all that stuff, how that is changing or has changed. Because I hear a lot of conversation again from people about the police department used to be different than it is today. Like there's this old stock of police officers, and they are not the same as the police that we have today. So we're going to get into that here in just a second.
All right.
Let's take a quick break.
Yep.
Today's podcast is sponsored by BPN. If you guys haven't checked them out, if you get out, if you run, if you lift, if you live an active lifestyle, BPN is going to have the supplements that you need to keep you going further and stronger and faster in whatever your chosen endeavor is. They have got endurance formula here, G1M Sport. This is great for runners, swimmers, endurance athletes. It's going to keep you going. They have got the best protein on the market. This is the whey protein isolate, which is truly grass-fed, brand new from BPN. And then, of course, for day-to-day use, we've got really awesome electrolytes. They taste good. They mix well. Everything from BPN is top-notch. BPN is veteran-owned. It's an amazing company with awesome people, and we are so thankful that they've chosen to come alongside us in our mission here at 307 Project. This is one of the ways that you guys can support us here at the show is when you need some supplements, check out bearperformancenutrition.com. And there will actually be a coupon code in the description of this episode. So, promise you, you won't be disappointed. Check them out. Again, that's bearperformancenutrition.com. Yeah, I want to jump right into people because, I love all the conversation that we've had up to this point. but really getting down to what's creating this gap. We talked a little bit earlier about how social media is influencing people's perspective, to include mine.
Yeah.
I can't say that what I've seen on social media isn't a factor that influenced how I felt toward your guys that pulled me over the other day.
Yeah.
And again, I don't like it that I felt that way, because that's a me problem. But I think social media is a huge factor in what we see. And I do think that we should double down on the fact that what we see on social media is a like 0.0001% of the interactions between law enforcement officers and civilians that happen every day across the face of the country.
And you don't even get the whole picture, which is the problem.
Exactly, man.
They get a snippet, and again, as you said, like it's one interaction or something like that, and chaos sells. So yeah, I always look at, I used to look at it different before I got into law enforcement. I was kind of the same way. Like they have a way of making you feel like this is the truth. And then I look at that, and then I got into law enforcement, and I started looking at anything as evidence based. Just because like that's what I do in the military. I mean, not the military, law enforcement. I look at it, it was like, okay, is this the whole video? Because usually it's fueled from some kind of video interaction, right? I was like, is it modified in any way? Is this the beginning of the video? Is this the end of the video? What led up to this point? Type of things. It's like, did we see the whole interaction? So a lot of times people get angry is because they see this small snippet on a video, but they don't know the whole story yet. And that's what ruined, like, that's kind of the thing that got law enforcement in trouble is, there's cameras everywhere. There's a camera on every phone, and somebody's going to record you. Somebody's going to get the bad side of things, but they didn't see what happened when it led up to this situation or how it got to that situation.
Speaking of that, is it appropriate for a civilian to, if I get pulled over, is it appropriate for me to set my phone up and just video that interaction just for my own sanity?
I like me personally, I don't care.
Okay.
Go ahead and do it. Because the only time an officer would worry about your phone being recorded is either one, he doesn't know that it's completely legal, right? You're in a public space. You have the right to record whatever you want. So, it's not a private, dwelling or a private property or something like that where the public doesn't have common access to it, type of thing. So if I pull you on the side of the road and you start recording me, absolutely justified. And that, the officer doesn't realize that. But how did he get to that point where he didn't know that, Was it a lack of training on the department side, or was it a lack of learning on the officer side? Because there's always, it's like, they should have trained him better. It's like, man, we train him as this guy so much all the time. It's like he just doesn't absorb anything. So, and then they're like, "What's your responsibility?" Up to a point, yes.
Yeah.
Or the other side of it is the officer doesn't like to be recorded because he knows what he is doing is wrong, and he doesn't want to get anything in there. But it could, as I said, it could go two ways. A lot of times, like, oh, you can't record me. It's public space, buddy. Like I can record you here. So.
And I think that for people that feel compelled to do that, I think that there's some responsibility on their behalf also. I mean, not saying that it's mandatory, but like if I did that, I think I would tell the officer, "Hey man, I'm just recording this for my own peace of mind, just to make sure everything that's done here is proper."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said, just being humans,
you don't
man.
Know. Like my whole job is knowing what I do, but you as a civilian, you don't know what this dude is doing is completely above par. And I understand that on your side. Go ahead and do that. you know. If the officer doesn't like it, I feel bad for him, but like you're completely legally justified. Like our job, and like one of our titles as a cop is this public servant. Keyword public, right? That means you're going to be out in the public doing that. If you don't want to be recorded, maybe this isn't the career for you, because you're always going to be judged, right? You're going to be judged, by your peers or your supervisors or anything like that. You're always going to be judged by the civilian populace too. And judgments goes both ways. It's good and bad. They make a bad judgment on you, or just based off of interaction, or they make a good judgment and say, hey, this officer saved this guy's life. We're going to put him in for an award for that. So, but no, when it comes down to recording, I don't personally care. You can record the interaction as much as you want. But on the flip side of that, what is the goal for your situation? As you're saying, I'm making sure everything was legally done, right?
Yeah.
But some people do it because they're just trying to agitate the situation. They don't really care about anything else. And then they start, letting their mouth go wild, as I say, and they start trying to agitate the situation more, and thinking that them recording the camera, is going to be like, oh, I'll put this on Facebook and all. And I've seen it a bunch of times.
Really?
Well, they'll just put it on Facebook. Look what this officer did. Yada yada yada. So
yeah, and they'll edit it down to just the snippet that they want to show.
Yeah. And then like I'll watch it. I'll be like, well, I'm watching it from a law enforcement perspective, and I'm like, this dude he was very nice, and you can clearly see that he's getting he's tired of you making this situation worse. Not like that. And he's just like, they go like this. Really? Come on, dude. Like, this could have been so simple. It could have been over. But then, so what's the purpose of the recording? Is it a legal reason, or are you just trying to agitate the situation on a little bit more? So.
Yeah. And dude, I felt so bad the way that I talked to your guys the other day. And like, I immediately, like, the Holy Spirit immediately convicted me of that. And I felt repentant of it.
Feel a prick in your side, like, wow.
I did, man. And I actually called you and got the officer's number, and I called him and I apologized.
Yeah.
Because that's
hey, it's crazy is I talked to him and I go, hey, is it okay if you talk? I give him your number, so you call. And he was like, yeah. And I said, well, this is what he's going. And he was like, oh, I didn't think he was mean or anything like that.
Yeah, but I mean, what I said to those dudes is again, I mean, even as well trained as I am, I let my emotions get the best of me, and I said, yeah, boys, it's a great day to be an American, isn't it? You drive to, I'm just trying to drive to freaking work, and I broke 10 laws on the way, and now like, that didn't need to be said, man. Like, that didn't need to be said.
No.
And so.
But then that's again the human side of the officer. When you're saying like that, it could have been like, "Hey man, what's going on? You having a rough day? Are you okay?"
But see, if they would have asked me that, Scott, before we sat down and had this conversation, I wouldn't have taken that the right way.
Really?
No, I wouldn't have. I would have thought. I would have thought this dude is trying to incriminate me. He's trying to prolong this situation, not because he cares about me, but hopefully so that he can push me over the edge a little bit, where this becomes combative.
Yeah,
like that's where my mind was at, dude. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I can see that, because sometimes, like, and you got to read. You know how they say, read the room, right?
Yeah.
So you got to read the person too. It's like, hey, if I ask him this, how do I word it so it doesn't set him off?
Yeah.
Or like it, and again, it comes down to tone of voice. It comes down to, how are you being empathetic with the person, or are you just trying to poke the bear, as they say, to try to push them over?
Yep. So people in general, I mean, I'm wondering, for you in the last decade that you've been doing this, have people in general that you're dealing with out there, have they gotten better, worse, or is it about the same as it's been since you've been doing the job? in terms of just the interactions and the conversations that you're having with people.
I pretty much, some people will probably disagree with me, but in my opinion, I think it's kind of the same. They're finding new ways to do things. So it's like you still have the same amount of agitators because they're just disgruntled people, but they're just using different tactics to do it now. Be like 1990s. Like they didn't have a phone that was recording you or anything like that, but now they got a phone and you're like, I'm recording you. Okay.
And like you said, that almost gives them more courage to agitate the situation even worse, because they know they might get a piece of content here that's going to support the way that they feel on social media to the world.
Yeah. It's this is purely opinion. It's not, facts or anything like that. I think so many people do that for clickbait type things. Like, it's like, oh, I can get more people to acknowledge me. And
it's popular right now, dude. Yeah.
So then, like, maybe I can get sponsors and people will pay me. And again, it's opinion. I don't even know if that's true or not.
Or it's just that I can post this and read all of these comments of people that agree with the way that I feel. Right?
Yeah.
Which then is like that's like dopamine hits to your brain. You know what I mean? It's empowerment. That's exactly what it is, man. Yeah, I've never even thought about that before.
Either way, I don't care. Everybody has a bad day,
Well,
you have a bad day. I mean, heck, I sometimes have bad days on the job too. Where like it's been a rough weekend. We've had some shootings and just I'm bogged down at work with stuff I need to get done. And
well, dude, I remember one particular situation that you had to deal with that I wasn't there. I just heard about it at the Chick-fil-A, and we don't have to bring it up. But like, I remember just hearing the story. My wife told me the story about that, and I was like, holy crap, dude. Like, how do you keep going to work after something like that? Like, how do you get through the rest of the day?
Honestly, I like my job. Like that. I like what I do. You got bad days and good days.
Yeah.
But in the end, like, I get to do more than just be law enforcement. And there's other sides that they don't know. Like, I'm part of the homeless committee here. Like, I am a law enforcement representative for the homeless committee. I used to be the bicycle officer. And I got to know these people very well because I was riding the bikes. I wasn't there to harass them or anything like that. I would literally just sit down and talk to these people, and I just listen to kind of their life story. But I mean, that's the bicycle job guy. Go downtown, talk to people. I would go to the park, and you'd have some homeless people gathering there, or they would have people on Sundays. Used to on Heritage Park. They didn't do it after I left, but they would have a church service, and basically all the homeless people come. They would feed them, and they would give them church. They would have a church service there, and I always thought it was so cool. These people going out and above and out of their way, and how they have compassion and stuff like. But I kind of been that way all my life. If my dad was still alive today, he would tell you. Born and raised in Northern Illinois, we'd take trips into Chicago when I was a kid. My dad would give me, I think it was either 10 or 20 bucks when we were kids. And like, I saw this homeless person on the side of the road. It's freezing cold out. They were begging for money. And I don't remember how, I was young. And I just took my money out of my pocket, walked up, and gave it to them. Were they honestly homeless? Were they going to use it for good intention? I don't know. But in my opinion and in my heart at that time, I wanted to help that person. Mm-hmm. And that's how I've been all my entire life. My dad, I'm kind of the black sheep of the family, to kind of go back. I don't mean to divert that, but I'm a law enforcement officer. My brother, my uncle, my dad, my grandpa, all firefighters. So I kind of went to the other side of the things, but I still have the same heart. Mm-hmm. My dad was really good about showing me compassion and caring and helping, being there for the community. And, firefighters, they get a good rep for that because that's, purely their job. But the kind of military kind of pushed me more towards the law enforcement side. I can't really explain why, but I still do the same thing.
It's still an important part of a law enforcement officer's like just core though, because like you said, like such a big part of the mission, it like it is to protect and those who can't protect themselves, who are in a situation that they can't protect themselves, and to serve the people. Like,
and that's the thing is,
but we don't see that happening. No. Like, we always see is social media, right? Like, we don't see that happening. I don't see that happening, but you're saying it is still happening.
Oh yeah, like we came out with the ambassador group. So the ambassadors are supposed to be the bridge between the civilian populace and the law enforcement. They are non-mandated, so they can't really enforce any laws or anything like that. But they're a way of trying to communicate with the community without feeling the presence of law enforcement, right? So you can come up to them, you can talk to them, you don't feel judged, you don't feel like you're going to jail, like, you know, because it's taking a lot longer and your mind starts going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are on the road in Rome. You'll see them going around. There's 4 of them. And they're just there for you to communicate if you have any issues or stuff like that.
How do you identify them?
So they have a yellow and black shirt on. They ride the e-bikes around. They have it's a Ford Maverick truck that they drive around. It literally says ambassador on the side of the truck. On their vests, on their shirts.
Man, that's good, dude.
It says ambassador on it. So that was another idea that was trying to help, as you're saying, you know, bridge that gap between law enforcement and the civilian populace. Is, you know, we have that little bit where they can kind of dip their toes on both sides of the stream.
Mm-hmm. Love that, man. Yeah, the reason I want to start with talking about people and getting your perspective on that is because I think that this divide is a people problem. And then here in just a minute, we're going to talk about, is it also a law enforcement problem? And then is it a government problem? But like, I know for much longer than a decade, like, we as a culture have been progressively abandoning our, you know, I guess our moral standards as portrayed by the foundational moral standard of this country was built upon the principles portrayed by the scriptures and the 10 Commandments, for instance. And like, as we as a people, as a nation, as we continue to push the idea of God out of all aspects of our culture, as we decide as a culture to say, well, these standards are no longer authoritative over me because there is no God, right? Yeah. It's like, then all of a sudden we find ourselves, you know, not me and you personally, but, you know, the general public, a large percentage of the population, what's right and wrong and how to act, and it becomes totally arbitrary to people, because if there isn't an objective standard that is agreed upon by the culture, and that standard for most cultures is usually given by God, whatever God the culture worships, when we do away with that, it's like the people that make up the culture just get worse and worse and worse and worse, because the lines between right and wrong become so blurred, you know? I even posed the question the other day. Well, you know, for all of you secular people out there, was Jeffrey Epstein and all that he was doing, was he really that bad? Because there's cultures that exist in the world today that wouldn't think abusing a 13-year-old was a bad thing. Like, it's culturally acceptable to them. So for you, for someone out there as a secular person, like, essentially when you say there is no God, like, you have just forfeited your ability to objectively determine what's right or wrong, because what you're saying now is what's right and wrong is according to your own belief system and how you woke up that morning, and your emotions and your own perspective and the way you were raised, and you know what I mean? So I don't know. To me, looking from the outside, it seems like the people of America, okay, if we look at the general population now in 2026 versus the 1950s, like, I think we can pretty confidently say people are getting worse, more evil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes and no. I think we both. I think pretty much the same way you do. I think things were removed from schools. I think things were removed from families. Like there used to be open studies about the Bible in the schools. We used to have, and that would help guide them and their moral values, or as I say, like their moral compass.
Yeah.
Right. And this helps me, in reading, the scripture, and every day, like just kind of a sidebar, like to keep myself straight. It's like daily devotionals for the law enforcement or some of the badge, and I read them every day. And it just it help me stay centered, right? It helps me guide me that even when I'm having a bad day, I got to know what I'm doing is right. And it's awesome because it's written into a law, basically by a law enforcement guy who's written it, and he says you may have these trials and tribulations in your life, but you got to realize even on the hardest days, you're still doing the right thing, as long as your moral compass, doesn't get broken or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on the same thing. I think like we removed that. We used to pledge allegiance to the flag, and I think that gave us country, our pride in our country. Right?
It's totally like I don't want to say it's totally absent, but I mean even among the veteran community, like you see now. I mean, a large percentage of the veteran community, to include myself, like questioning what was the organization that I was serving under being guided by, like, you know what I mean? And that's eroding that nationalism is something that does also not only, it's another component that pride in being American that binds us together, that causes unity. And I think as that erodes, and I think it goes back to my whole thing about the reason I felt that way toward law enforcement officers is because of lack of trust in the government being my nation, right? Yeah. And as that erodes, I think that is indeed also increasing this divide. But that's a part of people. You know what I mean?
The thing with that is each individual makes up that government, right? So if we get enough of those individuals that want to do the right thing, do the good thing, and stand up no matter what, and hold their ground, it can change, but you got to have enough of those people in place.
I think that there is still hope for at least moving in a better direction on the local level. I don't know that it can change on the national level, but I just tend to be pessimistic toward that. It just seems like it's gotten too much of a conglomerate. But on the local level, which is a question I have to ask for you later about government. But so we don't run out of time, I want to get into just talking about law enforcement. So we talked about people. Are people getting worse? I think from your perspective, you said, well, not. I mean, at least where you live, the job you're doing, the amount of time you've been doing it, you say, no, it's about the same. They're just coming up with new ways to kind of be bungholes.
To reiterate, like the way people were raised, and you were saying back in the 1950s, like a village, it takes a village to raise a child type of thing. And where that came from was the fact that, like, if we were neighbors, we used to talk to each other. We used to know family. If he did something he wasn't do, I could snatch your kid up and walk you over and tell you exactly, hey, this is what he did. And you sit down, you look and you talk to your kid, and you're like, did you do this? Yada yada. And he goes, well, you need to make this right. We're going to be over there tomorrow. We're going to be fixing this, and stuff like that. You don't see that.
We definitely anymore. Don't do that anymore, dude. But we don't talk, like you said, we don't talk anymore, really. I mean, isn't that a great thing about this?
Yeah.
Like, it's a great thing about this. I think it's a huge part of the divide.
Yeah.
Is we don't talk anymore. At best, we text. Yeah. At best. But most of the time, all we do is stare at that little mirror in our hands and consume. Yeah. And we don't talk anymore, man. Like, that's a great point.
Yeah. And that's like with our kid, like my wife and our kids, like going outside to play. We're going to go hike. We have the farm too. So like they're out there, hey, we're going to go collect eggs. Can you count how many eggs we got? you know. So my kids, and you know, my wife does a majority of the work. I do some to help, like, but even if like my wife says no, he does a lot of work. I still think she's by far better than me, person, just because of everything that she does for the family, the farm, and everything. And I'm just kind of the guy that's like, hey, I need you help to fix this. All right, I got it.
Under all that, brother.
So, but yeah, law enforcement.
Yeah, law enforcement. So I'm interested in your perspective again over the last decade, just how law enforcement has changed. I guess starting off with, are the candidates that are coming in now, the new guys essentially, has the quality of the candidate went down? Has it gotten better? Has it been about the same? Like the guys that you're getting coming in, and maybe this is just, maybe your opinion on this is shaped by other leaders that you know within law enforcement community in different departments. Like, is there a warning sign out there that like, man, we are just not getting the right candidates, at least as a majority, to fill this job and this need?
I'm, you know, I really don't do much with the recruitment on the side. I can speak a little bit about that. Um, you know, things that were, you know, frowned upon, like, you know, don't do drugs, don't do this and that. Um, People would never do it, right? You know, like you'd have the small groups. Like think about back when you were in high school. Like it's not as prevalent as it was now, or accepted. You know, nowadays, like nowadays, it's like a lot of that stuff is like, oh, he smoked weed. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Well, I mean,
Back when we were growing up, it was taboo.
It was very rare.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're like, I think those guys smoke weed. I don't know, but probably not, you know? But nowadays it's kind of become more acceptable, and it's more acceptable by peers. Where like you wouldn't hang around with somebody like that, right? Or those people would just kind of have their own very, very small group. Um, that I think that has to do with just society in general has is changing because of that. I'm just thinking about like,
well, society in general is going to have an impact on the candidates that departments are getting to fill the positions that need to be filled.
And I think each generation has a different challenge. I think because, you know, think about the technology when we were growing up and things like that. It wasn't a lot, right? Nowadays it's so prevalent. So yeah, what may be like, yeah, he's not a strong candidate like this guy used to be. Like when he first came in, he was very social interactive. It's because he didn't have phones and stuff like that. He had to be social and interactive and stuff like this. This guy isn't. But this guy freaking excels at everything that comes with a computer. And if we have any issues, we just look at him. Or he knows like the ins and outs. Or he's like, they'll say like, oh, you know, he communicates with such and such app. Or they use some slang that I have no clue about because I'm learning new slang all the time, you know, between gang slang and, you know, the newer kids stuff. Well, he already knows about that stuff, you know? So like his strong suits can put, you know, have maybe my weaker sides, but where like, you know, my strong sides is, you know, like shooting and working out and, combatives, you know, hand-to-hand training and stuff like that, where, you know, it's just not prevalent with them, you know, where us, when we grew up, that was, you know, that's all we did. We fought with our brothers and sisters. We rode bikes and stuff.
Hunted, depending on where you're from,
It's just technology has become more prevalent, so that's people have always pushed. Hey, go be a coder, learn this, or be proficient at computers and stuff. So the quality of candidates, I would say some things have changed because of the acceptability of things, like, you know, oh, you know, this person did mushrooms like a week ago. Yeah, you can't come work for PD or something like that, you know, like, you probably want to go get this straightened out before you decide to come work in a thing where you have to enforce laws against psilocybin, which is the hallucinogen inside of mushrooms. So as far as quality, like there are weaker categories for some people, but not all. Like I have some studs coming in. Like they have the tech capabilities, they have the capabilities to, as we say, run and gun.
Mm-hmm.
They have enthusiasm about those things, and then you got some of the other guys that just they don't have a broad life experience or a background, and you can usually tell the difference. As I said, like I have one guy. He's we call him probationary officers. I call them rookies still. They say don't call them rookies anymore, and I was like, well, he's a rookie, so. But they say now the term is probationary officers, or PO as we call them. We have a rookie that comes in, and he was a gunner's mate in the Navy. And then I have these 3 other candidates that they pretty much just came in once they got 21. They didn't have much of a life. But you see a huge difference in this guy's quality of training and his output.
The gunner's mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Compared to the other guys that didn't have his life experience and background, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, dude, you're killing it. Just keep doing what you're doing. You know? And then you're looking at these guys, it's like, and then I'm looking at my FTOs, it's like, how are they doing? Oh, he's doing good. You know, he's not adapting as fast as this guy, or he's very enthusiastic and he's like very knowledgeable, super book smart and stuff like that. But like, he doesn't have the survivability instincts of like the guy who's the gunner's mate, because, you know, he's trained heightened sense of awareness, you know, pay attention to your surroundings. Don't put yourself in a corner. But this other kid, it just never dawns on him because he hasn't had that training. And that's the thing that we build them up and work them up to at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, as far as our department, we have a pretty good training we have a really good training program, in my opinion, because of the way that the longevity of which you train your officers, and then you are swapped FTOs. So you may have a different training style than I do, or you like traffic. I like, you know, working drugs and all that stuff. So I give them a touch of everything and that way it kind of sees like, yeah, this is kind of where I want to go in the department.
Yep.
So,
I have to ask you, while we're talking about potential candidates, I've always looked at the pay that law enforcement officers receive. Yeah. Okay. And then I look at what it costs to just live. Okay, if you're a police officer in Rome, if you want to buy a nice house in Rome, it's going to cost you $500,000.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I look at the salary that these guys are getting, and I think, okay, if you're a police officer in Rome, you're basically going to have to live in a freaking slum when you're first starting out to even live in the town that you're working in. Yeah. And I think I'm like, and I'm wondering your perspective on this. Like, it seems like if that was a little better, that you would really get more guys and girls who were like top tier, like candidates to do this really hard, really important job. I mean, how do you feel about that, man? Like, is that a topic that comes up amongst the community a lot?
I don't think there is a community where pay factor does not come into play. Law enforcement, we've gotten better. Like, over the years, we've gotten those pay increases and things like that. And, you know, yeah, like starting off, it's actually a halfway decent salary for starting off, but like, and you're going to get, you know, COA. So we do incorporate the increases of like, hey, cost of living is going up. So you're going to get, you know, a 2%, you know, pay increase on top of what you get. And then the other 2% comes from your annual evaluation as far as like a merit raise. It's like, how did you perform as a police officer? It will basically be your other part of your pay raise. So like, if you're out there, if you're doing a great job and stuff like that, and it's compounding also. So yeah, in the beginning, like, but everybody has to start at the bottom somewhere. And yeah. I know what you're saying as far as salary, because what we do,
but you think
you have the potential to make a decent living.
So, but you think essentially the salary for at least the department here in Rome is good. It is high enough starting out to draw the candidates that are acceptable to be doing that job.
the big thing is like, if we had, I mean, if we could increase the money, we would. Where's that money come from? So like, again, it comes back from the taxpayers and all
Well,
that.
dude, I pay like $25,000 a year in state tax.
I don't know where all the money goes.
Yeah,
I don't work for the government. If I tried to understand that, I would have to leave my job and go back to school.
Oh,
and
for
just
sure.
Studied that,
for sure.
So like, I can't tell you exactly everything. But there are limits,
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just thinking about how to close this gap, and one way to close the gap is to get the best people possible.
Oh yeah,
doing the job that you're doing, and the way to get the best people possible,
you could be
doing the
very
job that
selective.
you're doing, is that you pay them a really good salary to do that job, and then it's going to draw guys and girls in who have a massive amount of experience already in life, and then they're able to say, okay, well, I can make a really good living doing this, like right off the rip, so I'm going to go do this instead of going to work for corporate or going to start my own business or something else like that. And the better people that we have feeling the boots out there on the ground and filling the patrol car, like the better those candidates are. And when I mean better, I mean encompassing everything that we're talking about, able to control their emotions, well-trained, caring, compassionate, understanding, what their purpose is, and really intellectually understanding the gravity and the weight of the position that they hold, and being able to navigate that intelligently, like that's going to close the gap. You know what I mean? So, but
I think part of it is you got to realize part of this job, it's a calling. Just like the military and anything else, you're not going in for it for the money and stuff like that. Like I grew up in a similar family, just on the flip side of the coin, where my dad was a firefighter and an EMTI, which there's not many of them around anymore. And my mom was a teacher. So basically, they both worked in some kind of public service. I knew they were getting great money, but they made good money, right?
But if you don't feel that calling, you're not the right person.
It takes a certain mindset, really. Like money is attractive, but it's, as you said, you need that person. Like, and you're like, money, if you increase the money, you're definitely going to find more people like that. But at the same time, it's a calling, man. Like, you got to want to do this job. Like, you understand that there's hard days. There's days where, like every morning I make sure when I wake up, I kiss my wife and, I say, I love you, and I say goodbye to my kids because I don't want to wake them up. I'm like, goodbye. Okay, they didn't wake up because my wife is like, she loves her sleep. And I don't blame her. I love my sleep too. But yeah, like there is that potential of like, I may not come back. And training, compassion, knowledge, experience, a lot of those factors help me in coming back every day. So but in my opinion, it comes back to a calling, because you want to be out there to help people. You have to have that protector mindset, protect the innocent and the weak, and you want to be a do-gooder who does the right thing, right? You want to help slow down, get people to slow down so there's not, car accident deaths, fatalities, people driving too fast. That, those are the things. It's like certain people were affected by that. Like some people are like, I became a doctor because, this person saved my mom's life and it changed me forever. And certain people is like, they see a role model and they're like, I want to be like that guy. And there's, we have quite a few in the department where they set really good examples. And I can think of one guy specifically and how he's just a patrol officer. He's been a patrol officer, I think, since 1994. And everybody in the community knows him. Like and they'll say his name. Hey, how you doing? And I'll be like, he'll be like, hey. And like me being a law enforcement officer, I'm like, damn, that guy gets a lot of respect. But it took him time to earn that. But he also grew up in the community. So
yeah. How about personal standards as it pertains to fitness training, morale, accountability, this personal standard for each individual officer. I know you were talking about your particular department. You are happy with the training that your guys are receiving. You feel like it's really good training. The training that they need is available.
It is.
Like, is there room for improvement on that? Are guys holding each other accountable? Have the standards drop for physical fitness, for just the way you present yourself? I mean,
so the
grooming standards, I think, are even as much as I hate grooming standards, I think it's an important part. I mean,
presentation.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this, dude, and like, if a dude like me pulls you over, and dude, I'm in this position of authority in this particular situation, and I'm covered in tattoos and I'm bearded out. That's a factor. I mean, whether you like it or not, dude, that's a factor that's going to play into the way the little civilian dude there that's scared to death reacts. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So they did studies on this, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I do remember the results of it. And the reason why there was departments were allowing beards and tattoos and things like that is relatability to everybody. Because it's been like, how many people have tattoos nowadays?
That's the flip side of it. Yeah.
So like,
I can play along with that.
And that could be a conversational piece too, right? So we're talking about community, building community. I can see you have it's like, dang, dude, you get a new tat? Where'd you get that at? I like that. Who did your ink? And that could be a relatability in it. And I understand the other side is you got an older crowd where the police officers, they were shaven, they had their hair.
They were in shape too. Like, that's another thing for me. Like,
that's a personal standard.
I know if a dude pulls me over and he looks like you, I can say, all right, this dude, like, he's got some self-respect. He's got some discipline. All right. If you pull me over and you're a daggone dumpster fire, and you're so fat you don't look good in your uniform. Look, guys. I mean, look. Don't take this the wrong way, man. But there's a lot of that out there. There's
quite a few.
Yeah. I mean, here in our town, and it's like, is there room for guys and girls, officers, to hold each other to a higher standard? As it pertains to that, because it makes an impact.
It does. It's hard to somebody pointed this out to me a long time ago. They call it like the tactical athlete. And they compare military to law enforcement. So we look at the military and it's like they train, and then they show this big long gray part on the scale or the graph, and it says this is all their training, and it's like, this is actions on objective.
For sure.
This is like combat for me. This little period. Then they go back and it's like all train. Well, it's the flip side for us. So this is this is our action on objective, or just all your combat you're seeing, quote unquote, combat. This is your daily activities, right? Because we are in, we're working every day. So we don't get time to do PT. We don't get time. You got to make that yourself. Now, our department has done pretty good about making time available to work out on duty, where like some departments, they don't even do that. So like all you have to do is ask your supervisor, hey, can I go work out for, you get 45 minutes to work out on duty.
That's great, dude.
Yeah. The fact that they do that and makes it available is awesome. I take advantage of that. But I've been a very super active person my entire life. So for me to sit down, it's like, I'm going to be done working out. Like, my hands would start shaking, and then if I didn't work out for a week, I probably need to go on like a 30-mile run just to calm myself down. Dude. Yeah,
I'm the same way. I get that you're saying that it's hard. I'm having this. I'm sharing this mainly for the viewers who are in law enforcement. Like, from my perspective, like, yeah, I get that you're saying it's hard, but like that's not an excuse, dude, because it's like, this is an important piece. It's not the only piece. Yeah. And me being who I am, it's very easily for me to put a lot of emphasis on this. Yeah. Because it's something that I value. But like,
no, I mean, I value physical fitness. I've talked about physical fitness standards and things like that. how do you enforce it? Like how, and then we got the older crowd that'd be like, no, we're not going to do that. We've never done that. And then you got the uppers is like, yeah, we ain't doing that. Like the fire department has a national fitness standard, which is national. Like they're all encompassed. The fire
I took
department.
their dang test and it
Yes.
like killed me.
Yeah, well,
It was legit, dude.
so here comes the anti-government side, right? Can you imagine a national law enforcement and then having a national standard?
Yeah,
on
I
top of
don't
that?
think that's the solution. I'm just saying.
But I'm on the same thing as you. Yeah, I'd love for all of us to be in shape and all things like that. But you remember your days in the Navy. Was everybody really in shape there either?
There were a few guys who weren't, but I mean they caught heat for it.
Yep.
Like they definitely like they might have just continued to exist out of shape, but they were going to keep getting berated for their
we stress
fatness.
We stress and emphasize, physical fitness because it transfers into things like you get in a foot chase, and I've been in these. Like you've been in a foot chase, and you're chasing this dude, and you're just dog tired because you got to carry all that equipment while you're chasing the dude, and you catch them. Now you got to fight them. So it doesn't matter how tired you are, and like people have been very fortunate. Like the reason why they're running is they're just trying to get away, right? And they just want to get away from you. But there have been some incidents with law enforcement officers where they will fight you. And now if you're already winded and things like that, or you're not in very good shape and they're fighting you don't have much strength or anything, or I didn't take defensive tactics training serious because I've never needed it. And then it's like you got your butt whooped by some 110-pound girl,
which is okay if that only impacted you. Like if you don't, I mean, when we talk about this aspect as it pertains to making the officer capable of doing his job, but it doesn't just impact you, it impacts your teammate.
Yep.
And it could impact the outcome of that situation, potentially costing your teammate his life because you were a fat turd.
There was a victim in this, like it was a domestic, there was a victim in that. He ends up whooping your butt, and he
For
goes
sure,
back to
man.
her,
For sure.
or him.
And that's a whole nother angle on this. And I guess I was coming at it from more of just the specific angle of the presentation of like, hey man, yeah, this is our law enforcement right here. These dudes are taking care of themselves. They're working hard. They're disciplined, from the civilian perspective. You know what I mean?
I wish I had an answer for you.
Well, it sounds like you guys are implementing opportunities at least.
Yeah.
And hopefully
it's that motivation factor.
Hopefully this conversation will inspire somebody out there that's doing the job to say, you know what? Yeah, this is important, not just so I can do my job better, but because it's the way I present myself to the people, right?
I always look at it back to this way. People used to take pride in their last name, right? Like it was like, oh, he's a such and such.
Yeah.
And and I always look at it this way, no matter what I do is I'm representing my last name. So like my last name, Kasmar, right? Like very odd last name for this area because it's not from this area originally. But like I want people to be able to hear my name also and say, he's a professional. He's out there doing the right thing. He works hard. He's in good shape. Like I want.
He's making the community better.
Yeah, he feel like he's doing a great job at what he does, and he
You're doing that. That's why you're here for this interview.
But I take pride. I take those little things that maybe people don't even consider, like the factor of my last name. I'm representing my last. Not only that, but like my kids have my last name.
Yeah,
my wife has my last name. My mom, my dad. Like I take pride that I come from them, and I share that last name. With them, and that's part of another side is I'm representing my grandpa, my mom, my dad, and I'm representing people that did good things. So I got to continue that too.
That's good, man.
But that, again, it comes down to personal beliefs.
That's good, man. So, I guess the last question I have on the police, we're just about out of time, but how is in light of everything that we have seen, I mean, just from the most recent crap with the ICE people up in, wherever that was, Minnesota or whatever. Like it's all, dude, it's been something. like right now the conversation is Iran, but like within a few months it's going to be the police again. Like how is the morale for dudes right now, guys and girls? Like morale at the department, like are because I see this as something that again is causing a gap. If the morale is low, with you guys, like it's going to affect the interaction between you and me. You know what I mean? Like
I don't like. I think kind of law enforcement. I don't know if you're like,
or what's some advice you can give to keep the morale up in the midst of all this crap to fellow officers, you know?
Like, if you love your job and you love what you do, you know you're doing it for the right reasons, you know, you're going to have hard days. I always tell people, always pick the hard right over the easy wrong. Because in the end of the day, if you know you're doing the right thing, like, and it may be a hard day, like, that's your satisfaction. It's just like, I understand you don't agree with what I do or but it is the right thing to do. And, you know, and if you're following, you know, if you're religious, you know, and you're following the building blocks of values and things like that, you know, it's really about just kind of trying over evil as far as morale, triumphing with that. But like administration too, like they'll see it sometimes, not all the times, because you know they don't have daily interactions all the times with us. And then it's part of my job as a supervision too to see how is my guys' morale, where is they dipping, and personally take an interest in it too. Hey, you okay? What's going on at home? You know, if I'm checking on my guys and I'm doing the right thing as a leader, then I should be seeing kind of where, if they have high morale, low morale, is something going on at home? Like, you know, my wife, my kid is sick, you know, I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Hey, we got 9 guys working today. Go home. I'll look at them and say, go home. You got plenty of time to burn. Go home, take a nap, because falls back on my job. If my guys aren't focused on doing what they're doing, number one, it will affect you, but it also may affect them too, as far as like making a wrong choice and it costing them their lives. And that's my job as a supervisor. Now, will I see that 100% of the time? No, I can't. I wish I could.
Yeah,
but I got to be on point 100% of the time to see it for them. And there's just so many things going on.
So much of that so much of morale comes down to good leadership. It was the same way in a SEAL platoon. I mean, I would say you could say 90% of morale comes down to good leadership. It really does, man.
And that's one thing I like about it is like where we're at is just like, hey, dude, my wife's sick. Like, you're not sick, but like, you know, my wife's sick. We don't have a babysitter. You know, my wife keeps the kids at home all day. You know, stay-at-home mom, or you know, she working at home and keeps the kids. Can I get today off? And and they'll even check me down for sick time too. They'll be like, yeah, because it affects my family.
Mm-hmm.
If it affects family, it's going to affect me. So that's another part about taking personal interests too. Is like, how's your kids? We had an officer that just got back on baby leave, and it's like, hey, how's the new one doing? It's like, you guys getting sleep? Do you need anything? And officers that leave the department, that go to other departments, do different things like that, I'll even text them, hey man, how's it going at your new place? Cool, glad to hear that. Or, hey, how's the new job? I understand you had I know you had a career change, but you know, I used to talk to these people. I wasn't like on a good friend basis, but I still care, you know.
Yeah.
How are you doing at the new job you adjusting? Is everything you want? You know, is there anything I can do? And I always extend, you know, my hand out, because I would expect somebody to do for me the same. And that's what I'm saying. Do unto others as you do unto yourself, right? So, and that's what I want others to do for me too. If I extend my hand, and maybe they'll see that I'm struggling one day and they'll extend their hand, because you never know when you're going to be on the flip side of that coin. When you're having a bad day, somebody else you may have been a good example for them, and they're like, hey, I'm going to do the same he did for me, because he's awesome.
Yep, 100%, man. Well, we got to wrap it up. You've you've shared a lot here, man, with us. Just a lot that's helpful for me, a lot that has made me feel a lot more comfortable with the guys who are out here and girls who are out here in my town doing that job. I mean, to be honest with you, man, it's been pretty rough for me. Like I've literally got to the point where I see one of your vehicles, not your vehicle, but one of your guys or girls, you know, on the road, and like I immediately feel a little anxiety about them even being in my presence.
I will tell you this. Even in my police car, when I see a GSP vehicle, I get a little anxiety.
Yeah. And, you know, that's a whole, those guys, that's a whole different type of thing. I think not a whole different type of thing, but I mean, that would be another conversation with a separate entity.
Yeah.
This is more pertaining to just, you know, our local, I mean, everyday America, dude. Like, just not that we live in the smallest town, but it's a pretty small town.
Yeah.
So
it's growing.
Yeah, it's growing for sure. But I mean, you've said a lot. Is there anything left that you would say just to your people in Rome as a law enforcement officer about, like, hey man, like anything else to kind of, for somebody that's feeling some anxiety with these interactions or maybe seeing law enforcement from the wrong angle? I mean, anything other than what you've already said that just stands out in your mind to just close that gap, dude?
It's going to be corny and tacky. You know, we're people just like you. We have families. You know, our families have jobs. Yeah.
So you don't hate us?
Oh no, I love you. I love everybody, honestly. You know, as I said, like I could talk to hours to almost anybody. No, I don't hate anybody really. It's people. And there's one thing. It's like you'll arrest somebody and they'll be like, "Listen, you may not be a bad person, but you just made a bad choice, right?" So and it was like, "Listen, you have no criminal history. From what I see, you're a pretty good person. And the way I'm talking to you, we're having a cordial conversation, even after the arrest. I think you're pretty good. I think you just made a bad decision. I'm not going to hold that bad decision against you the rest of your life, right? It was just one bad decision, and I was like, we're going to grow, we're going to learn from it, and we're going to move on. And hopefully someday down the road, like, and I've had these experiences with some of the guys, like I've had to arrest them, I had to take them to jail, and you know, like they're like, "Man, you're such a nice guy." It was just like other people would not have treated me like the way. I was like, everything's done. I mean, like we're going up there. You're being nice to me. I'm being nice to you. Like I'm very happy. Like as far as like our conversation wise, I'm not happy about the situation. Because people think it was like, oh, all they're doing is trying to put us in jail. No.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't doing the stuff that I had to put you in jail, then I wouldn't. I just go around being Barney Fife all day, right?
That's good stuff, man. Well, brother, thank you for having the courage to come on here and represent for our community, our local law enforcement department. I know it takes a lot of courage to do that, to do it publicly, especially for somebody like you who's not public facing. But this is what I wanted, man. And, I can't thank you enough for your time. I still got to pay that daggone ticket y'all gave me for that stinking sticker. So I guess I'll do that when we leave. But I love you, brother. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it. It's great. It's better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and thank you guys for tuning in. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. I know we didn't cover everything, but I do plan to continue on at least at certain intervals throughout the show of having law enforcement officers on to have hard conversations about what's going on as they come up. So we love hearing from you guys that are watching. Thanks for tuning in. Enough said.